My problem statement. Statement of core values and worldview. A worldview can be considered a basic set of beliefs that guide action. I've chosen to stand by the worldview of advocacy and participatory. This provides a voice for the participants. It implements a change for improvement and focuses on the needs of a group. My 3 core values stem from things that are extremely important to me in the classroom. The first one is effective oral and written communication, which is the transmission of information between active and agreeing participants. Making ideas, opinions, and emotions understood to others is an important skill that requires development and practice. It's important that students have a voice. Engagement. How do I increase student engagement in my classroom? What strategies do I use to engage students in their learning in order to develop student inquiry and improve student achievement? Students learn best when they are engaged in the subject matter. This is done by modifying both the process and the product of their learning. And lastly, respect and responsibility. How do multidisciplinary lessons build and/or develop a sense of respect and responsibility for learning in the classroom, both for oneself, one's learning, and for others? Building respectful teacher-student relationships and peer-to-peer relationships is also important in this value in order to foster a positive and inclusive learning environment, which is something that is extremely important to me as an educator. Statement of the research problem. This inquiry covers 3 specific fields of interest: critical literacy, increasing student engagement, and using resources and technologies available in the 21st century classroom. Our students must learn to develop their role as critical consumers of media, while at the same time learning that by responding to media, they themselves are creators of media texts. I want to get students engaged and excited to write in order to enhance their communication skills, since this is one of my core values. Using resources in a 21st century classroom is both a novel issue worth evaluating and also an answer to increasing student engagement, perhaps. My questions look at how these 3 areas of interest intersect with one another to promote student success. So my initial research questions before receiving feedback were: how can practitioners use technologies in a 21st century classroom, such as online blogging, in order to engage students to enhance critical literacy skills? How can practitioners engage students in online blogging in order to enhance their critical literacy skills? How can practitioners use an online blogging platform in order to increase student engagement and improve critical literacy skills? So all very similar. After receiving feedback to keep it simple, I have revised my question to: in what ways does blogging support student engagement in their writing? So some definitions of central and relevant terms: critical literacy, which is skills relating to a student's ability to read, write, and engage deeply with multiple media sources in order to analyze, evaluate, and respond appropriately to various texts. 21st century classroom, which is a learning environment where conditions and resources are in place to help students develop the unique skills necessary to navigate and engage with digital technologies, people, and tasks relevant to the 21st century. Blogging, any written text published online, usually written in a conversational tone and curated by a single person or group on a specific topic. Blogging usually allows for open and public comment and uses modern software for online writing. Student engagement, the ways in which students may become immersed in their own learning, often related to grist, motivation, and self-efficacy. And digital citizenship, one's appropriate, respectful, and civic responsibility as an avatar within an online world, which will be necessary to teach students in order to do this research project. Literature review, a synthesis. Online student blogging, the most common form of technology integration amongst research. Strategies and specific software technologies for implementing. Access to technologies was a central focus. All research had expressed interest in improving literacy development across different grade levels and age groups. Qualitative observations usually show that participants viewed blogging as both exciting and engaging, which appealed to common interests, and motivated by the idea of having an audience. There has been some research done regarding blogging in the classroom. A lot of research has been done around blogging with older students. They found that engagement played a big role in the use of blogging in the classroom. They also found that students enjoyed writing when their work was going to be shared with an audience and not just the classroom teacher. The students were more careful with their editing and revising when they knew that their work was going to be read by others. Students also found they were more apt to fix their mistakes on the computer because words were underlined and stood out for the writer to see. There was improvement in student work and the use of technology, but it is unclear if the improvement was because of blogging or because of the work that they did. So some gaps. Improvement is historically difficult to measure. Definitions of writing and development are inconsistent with one another. Blogging was used differently for summative, formative, and skills development across the many studies. Chamberlain only studied that valued student self-assessment as a data source, and access and use of software and the professional development was unclear. So some rationale for my action research. The research is clear on technology's value in increasing student engagement and improving literacy development. If students are more engaged, you have that avenue to tie that technology in with literacy. Motivation is important, but data of most value is the information gathered from student experience. I want to capitalize on audience and publication, which meets the needs of the Ontario curriculum, and bring research on educational technology into increasingly modernized 21st century classroom. The problem of technology access is less important today. More often than not, the schools do provide classrooms with technology. Specific strategies and processes that address descriptive feedback in relation to student improvement. Students can take that feedback and apply it to their writing in order to improve their writing further. My research plan. Data sources. The 3 data sources that I have chosen are to use this survey, student work samples, and self-assessment. A survey or questionnaire will be used to determine students' views, experience, and level of engagement or enthusiasm about blogging pre- and post-action research intervention. I want to do this to include student voice into the research design. So some questions that I might ask would be, do you like using technology to write? Do you like writing reading responses? Do you like when others comment on your blog posts? Did you use feedback to help improve your writing response answers on your blog post? Student work samples to determine how the students are improving or changing their writing through the weekly blog posts, and also to determine how the students use descriptive feedback to improve the quality of their writing. And finally, self-assessment to determine how the students are recognizing their own progress and what they need to do to achieve the learning goal, to determine the students' own engagement in their writing through the online blogging platform. Triangulation, validity, and reliability. When collecting data, I will ensure validity and reliability by sticking to the triangulation of data framework. By doing so, I'm ensuring that I'm collecting data from more than one source at more than one time. When multiple sources of data have agreeable results, the data is considered more valid and reliable. It is important to consider data sources that are more readily available than less probable. For example, choosing samples of student work and self-assessment are more readily available sources compared to interviews that are less reliable. So here is a diagram of the triangulation of data that I will be using. So it shows again student surveys and questionnaires, student self-assessments, and samples of student work. Participants and setting. In this research project, students and classroom teacher will be involved. Students will be involved in all 3 data sources, and the classroom teacher will be involved in the assessment of the samples of student work. When will the data be collected? The survey and questionnaire will happen pre- and post-intervention to determine if any of the results have changed. Student work samples. They will be collected once every 2 weeks for 8 weeks. There will be 4 samples. Students will write and post on the blog during week A and revise and repost based on descriptive feedback during week B. This repeats 4 times. So by doing this, when students post their writing response during week A, the classroom teacher is able to go in and give that student descriptive feedback that they can use to improve their writing that they repost in week B. And self-assessment, once every 2 weeks for 8 weeks. Based on a checklist of the success criteria, students will evaluate their own progress towards the learning goal during week B. my research plan, data collection procedures. Here is a timeline chart. Survey and questionnaire will be collected pre and post intervention. This will be an 8-week long intervention. So the pre-survey will happen the first week of April, and the post-intervention survey will happen the last week of May. Student sample work will be collected once every 2 weeks for 8 weeks, the beginning of April all the way until the end of May. So it's collected 4 times. And student self-assessment once every 2 weeks for 8 weeks, beginning of April to the end of May, again an 8-week period. Some ethical considerations. Parents will be informed and asked to give consent for their child to participate in the project. So this will be in the form of a letter that will be sent home at the beginning of the project with some information about the blogging platform that I will be using. The chosen platform based on the research would be KidBlog. To ensure that privacy and confidentiality are maintained, my participants will be required to use a pseudonym on the online blogging platform. So in this way, they will create their own name and they will give me the name that they will create so I know who they are. A password is required to access the online blogging platform KidBlog, which will also help to ensure the privacy and confidentiality of my students. Closure. Implications for my practice. Emphasizes relationship between student engagement, motivation, and success. It is extremely important as a teacher and an educator that we are helping our students to be successful. Best practices in literacy development, making use of technologies that are 1, accessible and 2, proven useful. Connection between teacher inquiry and student achievement. Ongoing professional learning and implementation of 21st century learning environment. Students are given a voice in own literacy development, which ties back to my worldview about students being able to advocate for themselves and for their needs, and myself as an educator being able to advocate for my students' needs. Thank you for listening.